And so sometimes when I watch people on like the medal stand, or I watch them getting a Grammy, the external accomplishment, it's by nature going to be anticlimactic, because we made up in our head that it would change things, that it would make us better, that it would fix internal stuff. And the truth the Stoics want you to realize is that internal problems can never be fixed with external accomplishments. The truth is, you work really, really, really hard at something, and then you find out that it's not nearly as great as you thought it would be. Marcus Aurelius talks about ambition is tying your identity to what other people say and do. And that's just what a lot of us do. I mean, Zeno follows in the footsteps of his merchant father. Cicero strove to be the greatest, most famous, most beloved Roman. Seneca did the same thing. The Stoics were ambitious, there's no question. They tried to do stuff. And they, like all of us, you inevitably find that the external accomplishments are not nearly what you thought they would be. I watched this documentary about Taylor Swift not that long ago, which you might not think is a particularly Stoic film, but she talks about like climbing to the absolute top of the music industry, and she just says like, you're hit with this sense of, my God, like what now? Now what? There's a beautiful quote from F. Scott Fitzgerald. He talks about like driving through Manhattan under this beautiful bright sky and bursting into tears because he realized it would never get this good again. And that's a very sad thing. I think Oscar Wilde says the two tragedies in life are to not get what you want and to get everything you want. Stillness hit number one, that was great. It took 5 years for The Obstacle Is the Way to hit number one. It didn't hit the list when it came out, we don't know why. For 5 years it sold it, and then suddenly it hit the list, and I remember I was mowing my lawn when my agent called to give me the news. He said, "Did you hear?" And I said, "No, what?" And he's like, "Obstacle hit number one." What does it feel like to hit number one on the New York Times list, to have like the best-selling book in the country? I dreamed of knowing what the answer to that question would be. Definitely did not think the answer would be nothing. It was cool, but then I had to go back to mowing the lawn. You realize that the thing that you were striving for, this external recognition, it doesn't mean what you thought it would mean. There's this scene in Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. It says, "How does it feel to be free of illusion?" And he says, "And then I felt a clanging voice come from somewhere that said, painful and empty, painful and empty." And so sometimes when I watch people on like the medal stand, or I watch them getting a Grammy, the external accomplishment, it's by nature going to be anticlimactic, because we made up in our head that it would change things, that it would make us better, that it would fix internal stuff. And the truth the Stoics want you to realize is that internal problems can never be fixed with external accomplishments. No amount of applause or acclaim or wealth makes you worth more or less as a human being. You are. If you want to feel good, you have to do good stuff, not stuff that's recognized by other people, but stuff that you intrinsically know is good. I think actually my best book that I've written is my book Conspiracy. But you put it on a sales list, it's not sold as good as even the book that was the least difficult to do, my book on growth hacking. But I know Conspiracy is a better book, and I'm prouder of it, and it doesn't matter where it falls on the sales charts, because that's not something I control. What I control is what I put in. And so you might go like, "Oh, this is privilege, you only figure this out because you're privileged." Sure, there's privilege in finding out that external success is not that rewarding, but the truth is most people don't find that out until much, much later, right? Some people stand, they get their gold medal, and they go, "Oh, I thought this would solve that hole that I feel inside me," but it doesn't. And so then they go and they start to focus on what really matters. That doesn't mean they don't still try to compete, but they focus on what really matters. But then other people stand up there and they go, "Oh, the reason this isn't feeling the way that I want it to feel is because I have to do it again and again and again. It's 5 Super Bowls that make me worthwhile as a human. It's winning the most championships or selling the most records that makes me good, or pulling off the biggest merger in my industry that will make me valuable." And that's the lie. You can understand why that's good from an evolutionary standpoint, but from the perspective of a human being, it will break you. If you're sitting there where I've been and you're going like, "What do I do now?" The first thing is you can't deceive yourself. You cannot tell yourself that doing more will get you there. Second, it's realizing that feeling good is in your own power. Feeling enough is in your own power. Feeling proud of yourself is in your own power. These aren't things that you earn. It's self-esteem, right? It does not come from the outside. Theodore Roosevelt talks about how far and away the best prize that life has to offer is the opportunity to do work worth doing. And realizing that being a writer is why I became a writer. It wasn't to be on the bestseller list. That's empty. If you told me my next book would debut and stay at #1, but I could never write another book, that would crush me. I would never want to do that. And it's also getting to a point where nobody gets to let me do the thing at all. That's actually the creative act itself, the writing that I enjoy that's meaningful. Whether it gets published, whether I die before it gets published, I've actually gotten to a point where as the Stoics would say, I'm indifferent to that. Seneca says we have to realize that most of the things we want are superfluous, that we already have what we need inside of us. He says, when you look at the old man arguing cases in front of the Senate, when you look at the general striving out to battle for one more conquest, realize that this glory, this acclaim, he says, it's being won at the cost of life. What's to be prized, Marcus says? It's not clapping. That's what praise is. He says it's a clacking of tongues. We have to throw out other people's recognition. So what is valuable? What do you prize? He says the goal of all trades is to do what we were designed to do. We should hold on to that. And so I have to remind myself, my job as a writer is to write great books, to write the best book that I was capable of writing in that moment, that I left it all on the page, that I held nothing back, that I didn't cover my ass or try to pander to this or that I wrote the best thing that I was capable of doing and I put it out there in the world. Lives came out recently. Lives debuted at #1, Wall Street Journal, so that's 4 #1s, I think maybe 4 in a row, which is incredible, but it's extra now. That's the idea. In New Orleans, they have this concept of lagniappe, the baker's does in the 13th donut. It's the extra. Getting the external rewards, being recognized by your peers, being clapped for, being politely reviewed in the New York Times. It's all great stuff that's happened to me before is extra. It has to be extra. It cannot be why you're doing it. Because if you will, it'll break your heart, or as Marcus Aurelius says, it'll drive you insane. You'll be there as Taylor Swift was, as I've been, as countless of other people who have lived and died and nobody cares about anymore. That should tell you something. They've sat there on that stage or on that podium and thought, what now? And the answer is nothing. It's nothing. You can't do more to feel good. You have to be enough. The work has to be enough. The effort has to be enough. To do the work for the rewards is to betray the work. So you do it because it's right, and that's enough. Hey, it's Ryan Holiday. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Every day I send out an email inspired by the best Stoic wisdom, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, all designed to help you live a better life. That's what I'm trying to do. The email takes 5 minutes to read. Over 300,000 people get it. That's the largest community of Stoics ever in the history of the world. I'd love to have you check it out. Totally free, unsubscribe whenever you want, but I think you'll like it. Sign up at dailystoic.com/email.